Hey folks, welcome back to another brand new episode of CPOV Autographs. I, of course, am Matt, aka Stormageddon. Before we get into this week's episode, but appropriate for this week's episode, I just want to plug that I have a TikTok. It's DJ underscore Stormageddon, like everything else. I mostly remember to post once a week. It's clips from my Twitch streams, it's stupid jokes. I sometimes ask questions and chat with folks out there, ask about nerdy things. I think it's a good time if you want to go check it out. Again, it's DJ underscore Stormageddon. And the reason I'm mentioning my TikTok is because my guest is the Panda Redd. As we get into just goes by Panda Redd, the to make it more official, which I love that we get into the nuance of his name later in the episode. But he is an incredible TikToker. He does sketches. He's a big comic book nerd and someone I've been a fan of for quite some time. His sketches always make me laugh. He has been a delight to follow on that platform, and I really wanted to chat with him about what it's like to create on TikTok and where his origins of his love of comics come from, because I've always been fascinated about how folks get into what they are creating on that platform. So I don't want to talk too much about this episode because I want y'all to hear it. Panda Redd was incredibly generous with his time, and we had a delightful and fun conversation. So without further ado, here is my conversation with Panda Redd. I am so excited, Jay, that you're taking the time to chat with me today. I'm talking with the incredible Jay Morton, otherwise known to everyone on the planet as Panda Redd, an incredible content creator, Twitch streamer, and TikToker. Thank you for chatting with me today.
Yeah, totally. No, this is going to be awesome.
I love your stuff, and I remember when I first discovered it on TikTok, I was like, who is this jackass just making these stupid skits, putting names over characters? It must have been one of your Justice League sketches. And I was just like, this is really fucking funny. Who is this guy? And so I started looking up your other stuff. What I love about, to start with the sketches on TikTok, what I love about your sketches is that they have an internal logic, not just dedicated to DC, but to your own internal logic. And my favorite is Damian Wayne. My favorite, because every time you film being Damian Wayne, it's from the nose up, and it gets a laugh out of me immediately.
Thank you. Yeah, I first started doing that just because I needed a way to distinguish him from the other Robins, because when every character is just you in maybe one extra jacket, there's not really a way to portray, oh, I'm a child now. I don't know, this one's short. We're going to make him ridiculously short. Like, he doesn't even fit on his own phone camera short.
And what I really love about it is like in the most recent sketch you did with the clip of someone taking a lion that you did between Dick and Damian, like, the silence is what always gets me. It's like Dick is staring at Damian and Damian's just doing his thing, and what? But it's half your head, and I just lose it.
I always love in comic books when they have just those blank frames of the exact same drawing over and over and over again. And I always like trying to interpret those into the video stills, which is incredibly hard when you have shaky hands like I do, where you're like trying to maintain the same facial position the entire time, but it's just not working. And it just is this long belated silence of a guy who's just his eyes and trying to act. Because Damien also, it's not just nose up, it's also the glasses. I have sunglasses and nose up. So I'm covering my eyes and the most expressive half of my face and going, no, trust me, you'll be able to get him. I promise.
When you did your series of stakeout videos, when you got to his also, it's just like, were you like slouching in the car to film him?
So the way that I do it is I just hold the camera way closer to my face. So
amazing.
I have no way to track how close I've held it before. I'm just like, I need to make sure that only this is shown and you can see my ears, because I need to make it so that the whole head fits on. So I can't have it just like my eyes and then the top of my head scraping the top. Ironically, those stakeout vids, those were just, I did those because I had like an hour. I would always show up to school like an hour early, and I would just have time, and there's nothing to study, there's nothing to do. So I'm like, I'm sitting in a car. Why not? Let's do this.
I love also how your stuff has evolved, especially over the last year. You most recently did a Christmas special with Tim Drake and the Joker in your car that was like 13 minutes long. Is great.
I think that's about it. Thank you.
Clearly, you like to act, even if it's just you being ridiculous.
Yes.
What the evolution to YouTube and doing the compilations and stuff, that seems like a natural evolution. Had you always wanted to do like this kind of like sketch work? Was this something you'd always been interested in, or did you just kind of fall into it?
I 100% fell into it. I mean, I've always wanted to do acting. Like I've always loved acting. Even in elementary school, I was doing plays and stuff, and I've done acting in every level of schooling since then. And then when I went to college, there just wasn't. I didn't have a drama club, so I needed to find an outlet for that. I never really thought I'd be doing sketch comedy of anything else. In fact, I usually like stayed away from sketch comedy because I was like, it's short. Most of the time the jokes run too long. I don't want to, it's not my thing. And then I just ended up stumbling ass backwards into it. And now it's just kind of what I'm known for. So it was never the goal, but I'm more than happy to be doing it. That's also why I like doing the more dramatic stuff too, is to show that this isn't the only thing that I do that I like doing. And that's not the only thing that I like acting as well.
Right. I mean, the bits are great, but I love seeing that you could do the longer form stuff as well. I loved the Black Mask sketch you did as well, the long form video you did.
Oh, cool. Thank you. Yeah.
It was, I mean, also, that mask does a lot of work. It's a very good mask. Like, once you have that thing on, I'm just like, damn.
Yeah. Okay, so about that mask, I think I have it behind me, actually. That mask was just that's a rubber skull mask I bought from Spirit Halloween and then spray painted it black. Yeah, hold on. If you look at it, it's squishy. Like,
oh wow,
it's not a hard plastic mask. I just needed to not move my jaw enough for you to be able to tell that it stretches when I open my mouth. Yeah, that mask, it does a lot of the work because it looks scary, but it looks scary just because I like sandpapered down after spray painting the thing.
Amazing. Obviously, it's an understatement to say you're a comic book fan.
A little bit, just a touch.
Have you been reading comics your whole life? Have you been reading comics since you were a little kid?
Yeah, basically since I was able to read, I started reading comic books. My first one was a free Star Wars comic that my dad got me on Free Comic Book Day. I think I actually have it framed in my room back at my parents' place. But yeah, ever since then it's just kind of been a downhill slope, and I've always been the comic book guy in all of my friend groups.
There's always one.
Yeah, there's always one. There's always the one guy that's like, hey, you want to hear all this shit I know about Batman? And everyone else says, shut the fuck up. You can only talk about superheroes so much before all of your friends are like, let's go do something where we're able to tackle you or something just to get you to stop talking.
Stop speaking.
Yeah.
That's how I became the Mass Effect guy on Twitter, because I have a Mass Effect podcast and I'm obsessed with the Mass Effect franchise. And like, it got to the point where I was like, hey, do you guys want to know how mass relays work? Because see, the science is actually really sound. I talked to like, Matt, shut the hell up. No one cares.
Exactly. Where I'm like, no, you don't understand. There's 4 different ones, all right? And you can tell which one is which by how much of their legs are covered. And they're like, will you shut the fuck up? No one cares. You're the only person that seems interested in this. And I'm like, yeah, but if I keep talking, maybe you will be too.
It's funny with comics. I feel like your first comic really shapes your trajectory for comics. For me, my dad had these big, thick volumes of Batman, Superman, and Green Lantern. They all had like this they were hardcover. I don't know, it was like the first 100 issues or something like that. But I remember him just giving them to me and going, here, I don't really read these anymore. You might like them, and just became immediately obsessed. I will go on record that Hal Jordan is my favorite Green Lantern. I know I am basic. I don't care. I like Hal, even with the nonsense they've put him through. Do you have favorite comic book characters, or at this point is it just I like all of them since you talk about all of them? I mean, it feels like to me Batman's your favorite just because I feel like that's the most content you put up.
Okay, ironically, I actually I didn't think I was that big of a DC fan until I started TikTok.
Really?
Yeah, in all honesty, I thought I was a Marvel fanboy my entire time I was growing up until I started TikTok. And honestly, the reason that I have more Batman stuff, this is the way I justify it in my mind. For one, Marvel makes fun of itself more, so it's harder to poke fun at it. It's
true.
hard. It's harder to go, ha ha, look at the silly heroes, because the silly heroes are also going, ha ha, look at the silly heroes. But Batman and the Bat family don't most of the time.
No.
Like, they don't
Yeah.
really point out how ridiculous they are. So it's real easy to poke fun at them, which is why I started going down that way. And now all the easy jokes are used up. So now I got to cut into the deep stuff. But to answer your question, yeah, I do have favorites, but like the more I talk about my favorites, the more it just sounds like I love all comics. Because honestly, I'm one of the few people that is like, no, Batman is the most boring part of his own comic book.
Correct.
Out of all of his characters, there's a reason that Batman doesn't appear in my skits as much as like all of the Robins do. And that's because I find the Robins incredibly interesting and their interactions between each other, especially because we very rarely ever see it in the comic books. For some reason, they like to keep them all separate. But if I was like to list off favorite characters, my first one would be Deadpool from Marvel.
Sure.
I got a Deadpool tattoo as like my first tattoo ever, because I love the complexities of the character. It's when you actually start getting into who he is and like his history and all of that I actually start enjoying him a lot more. Jughead Jones from Archie Comics is another.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, the Deadpool tattoo I have is actually wearing a Jughead crown, because
Nice.
Jughead was like one of my big favorite characters growing up. Then you just start getting into anti-heroes, where it's just like, and then it's Red Hood, and then it's Lobo, and then it's Punisher, and it's all of those, because I was a 2000s kid who grew up reading 90s comics, and also like the mid 2000s, which I kind of like to call the second 80s of comic books, where everything went grimdark again, where they're like, we're going to make it kind of silly. Never mind. We're going to go right back. Everything is dark and sad and everything is intense. And then now people are like, okay, maybe you can joke about the people in tights. It's pretty easy. Just go ahead. Have some fun with them.
Yeah, I like to say I'm as basic as they come, because I am a boy who grew up in the 90s. So my favorite heroes are Green Lantern, Venom, and Wolverine, because so we're like sense. Most of my peers at the time. And like, it's funny though, because I feel like I have a bigger wealth of that content for those characters now than I ever did before. I mean, with the ranging quality of the movies aside, I love Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. I unabashedly love how stupid the Venom movies are. They are just the dumbest, like,
they're so terrible. They're great.
I mean, that's what it is. And like Woody Harrelson and Tom Hardy in that second movie are just in a different movie from everybody else. And it's glorious.
And they don't even try and stick that. Like they try, they like sprinkle in some like, oh yeah, this was in a comic somewhere. And then the other like 98% of it is like, nah, we're just making shit up as we go, because
we're just
this is
figure
fun.
it out.
Yeah.
But I'm curious about your thoughts, since you are such a comic book guy, about the MCU and about the comic book adaptations. I mean, we've had such a huge range now, from manga to, just regular graphic novels, comic books, and it's not just superhero stuff now being adapted. Do you like the adaptations? Is it case by case? Like, how do you feel about seeing these books on screen now, or in video games even?
So I have kind of mixed feelings about it, because for one, I love that more people are getting into comics, because that is the one thing is unothering the nerd. I like being able to call myself a nerd, and I've always called myself a nerd, but like, it's nice to actually be able to have that be more of a common thing, where people are like, these are my favorite superheroes, and actually be involved in pop culture. That's awesome. It's definitely more case by case, but I definitely think it's more positive than negative. I really like the MCU because they stick to the fact that they are adaptations and not direct. They're not taking the comic and putting it on screen. If you're going to do that, just read the comic. But they made their own versions of the characters and are making them more public, which I think is a very, very good thing. There are things that I'm like, maybe read one or two more of these characters' comics. Something that that I've said before is that I can tell exactly which comic Zack Snyder read before he made his movies.
Yeah.
I can pinpoint the exact issues. Hell, I could probably figure out the exact pages he read to get his characterizations of these characters. Because I don't think he read a single Superman comic before making Superman. I think he read The Dark Knight Returns and went, perfect. And that's Superman now. And it's a little low for me.
Yeah, I get it.
Especially as someone who's not a huge Frank Miller fanboy, seeing DC be just Frank Miller's DC on the big screen. I'm like, good, please, can we just get like one something else, please? So it's very case by case for me. I think if you adapt the spirit of a character, I do not care if you adapt the word by word version. Yeah. So I'm extremely happy that comics are being adapted more and more, and I'm extremely happy that there's more and more movies. I just think it's more important to capture the character's soul more than it is to capture their exact actions. Like, I love Civil War, the MCU movie Civil War. I think it's a really good movie, but it doesn't follow the comic book at all. Not even a little bit. There's none of the characters do the same thing, but I do think it's a little bit stronger because they capture the spirits of the characters, where Iron Man trusts in the military and what they can do, and that we need to be put in check, even if it's not for the same reasons, even if it doesn't hold to the same morals that he does in the book, it still has the same soul.
Yeah.
And that's also where like other MCU movies where I'm like, I'm glad this is being adapted, but that's not the character I know. Like, I've never been a fan of the Ant-Man movies, but that's just because I kind of in my head, Ant-Man's an asshole. So when he's like a nice, lovable dad, I'm like, okay, that's cool, but that's not who I know. That's cool though. I'm glad that people can like that character now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's very case by case for me.
Well, and I get that. I mean, like, for me, even, I very recently played through the Guardians of the Galaxy game, which was phenomenal. And
so
huge shock to me. Such a great game. But it didn't, like, I like the Guardians movies well enough. They were some of my favorites, but I didn't realize how short-shrifted I was until I read the comics and played that game. Because the portrayal of those characters in that game, especially Drax, is just night and day from the MCU. And, like, there were moments with Drax that made me cry that I was not expecting, that I don't want to spoil for folks who haven't played it, but like that's the power of comic books and adaptation to me, is when you can take a video game, especially something like everyone knew the Spider-Man games were going to be good. Insomniac's a great studio. Yuri Lowenthal is the voice of Spider-Man, who's been working like forever and everything. Yeah. Like, that was a guarantee, but like most of the voice actors are relative unknowns, locals to like Canada and the area, and like still that game hit like a truck. And I think, personally for me at least, I think video games is kind of like, I don't want the video games to try and do what the MCU did. The Avengers game kind of tried to do that a little, and like that's where they started to fall into hot water, because they tried to make them sort of look like the MCU versions, but they weren't enough. And I think, so I'm curious, like for video games, which is a much longer format, do you think they have a better shot of nailing a lot of those characterizations? Because that's what it feels like for me.
I think that there is any longer form media, I think you have a better chance of capturing the actual complexities of characters. I think that video games are very good in terms of the amount of time that you can dedicate to a character and their characterizations and their complexities, especially because that's the one thing that is the hardest to capture with a lot of comic book characters, is because for every version of them, there is a completely contradicting version. For every Frank Miller's Batman, there's Adam West. So you have to be able to capture the entire breadth of that character, and take like the Guardians game, for instance. There's each of the costumes that you get. The description is written in the way that the character would describe that costume, and even like I it's not really a spoiler, but at one point you can get the original Star-Lord, like his first appearance ever costume. Yeah. And there's written description of it from his perspective. And I think that is something that you can only really get in games or a TV show, where you can get that complexity of being able to have the character explain themselves in a way that only somebody who's been reading comics for an excessive amount of time can get it. Because you simply cannot get that entire complexity of a character in an 1.5-hour movie, or even like a 3-hour movie. Like, even if you dedicated 3 hours of just Batman in a therapy session, you would not be able to capture every single aspect of his mind, what's going on. That's one of the reasons I love Red Hood so much, is that there's so much complexity to his character that you cannot simply adapt him in a movie and go, good enough. There's aspects of him that you need to actually be able to dig into and be able to uncover with time that you wouldn't be able to get in a movie. I think that games have a really solid approach to it. My personal favorite way that they adapt superheroes is in TV shows, because it's a very similar visual form to what comics are in a written form. I think that miniseries are a great way to go if you want to adapt graphic novels, but if you just want to adapt a character, I think the TV shows are the way to go, in the way of like, because if you think about comic books, they're inherently written to be never ending. They need to continuously go. You can have storylines, you can have story arcs, but the character needs to continue, whether it's a legacy version of them, whether it's still them. The story in the world needs to continue on forever, and TV shows are manufactured in a very similar way. I think that Marvel Netflix had a good was on the right path of how to adapt comic book characters correctly, because there's going to be lulls and dips in terms of even comic book storylines, but the characters continue on for as long as possible. I think that the idea behind networks like the CW making DC universes is good. That is inherently kind of how comics work, where everybody has their own stories going along, and then every now and then there's a big event that everybody gets ripped out of their storyline for like 3 issues, and now they're in the event, and then they jump back into their story afterwards. That's super comic booky. I think that the one part where like networks like the CW kind of fell behind is that they tried to make everybody Batman, or they tried to make everybody the more popular version of the character they were trying to adapt. Green Arrow is not Batman. He will never be Batman. Him and Batman basically hate each other in the comics for a really long amount of time. So making Green Arrow Batman doesn't exactly work. And then making Flash the wrong Flash is a little like, okay, you can do that, or you could adapt the Flash faithfully, and there's a reason these characters are popular. So to me, I think TV shows work a lot better for the future of superheroes being popular and how characters can be popular. They just need to adapt the soul of the character in that TV show and not go, well, technically Batman's more popular, so if we just call it Arrow but make it Batman, everyone will think it's great. Like,
I mean, but that show specifically, though, also at the time there was no way in hell they were going to get the rights to anything Batman related, and so that's probably why they went that route, which I mean worked, right?
Oh, it totally
regardless.
Did. Yeah, I watched all of Arrow. Like,
same.
I'm definitely not dissing it in the way of like, oh no, they should never have done it. I'm saying, like, going forward, superheroes are so popular right now, and everyone wants to know everything about the one thing that I've gotten a bunch on like my personal pages is people saying I was terrified to start reading comics. I didn't want to start reading superhero comics because they were intimidating, but being able to make them marketable and being able to point out the things about them that are enjoyable is what got people into it. I have people who are like, I've been Marvel fanboys for years, but I started watching your Bat Family skits and now I love the Bat Family, and I just picked up my first Batman book. I think that's the way to get at the character now that superheroes are popular. Back when Arrow came out, absolutely not. You'd never be able to make a Batman show, and you would never be able to market Green Arrow because the man markets himself as a social justice warrior. You could not have that on TV and have him be like, he's like super leftist with a devil beard. It's great. Like, you would never be able to market that back then. But now that heroes are popular enough, I think you could. I think you could get into those characters and actually have like Oliver Queen, who's, he means well, but he's also kind of an asshole, instead of just like, he's Batman, but with a bow. And nix the green. He's just Arrow.
I mean, that was always my biggest problem with some of the live action shows and things like that. It's also the wanting to make stuff grittier. I get it to a point. Like some of the stuff is good when it's really serious. Like Logan is a phenomenal movie. But that said, also Wolverine spent a lot of time wearing brown and orange and then yellow spandex and like fought the Hulk and like did all this other stupid shit. And like I think that's why I like the Venom movies, is because they gave the symbiote a personality and they made it stupid and ridiculous. Like the Adam West Batman movie where he's running down the dock with a bomb is comic
Some days
books.
you just can't get rid of a bomb. That's an extremely comic booky thing. I love when movies aren't afraid to admit that they're a comic book movie. That's why I get terrified when I hear directors go like, it's not a comic book movie, it's just an action movie. Shut up. It's a superhero. Come on. I get more nervous for the Batman movie every day I read an article about the Batman movie, specifically for things like that. When Joker was coming out and they're like, oh, it's not going to be a comic book movie, it's going to be a drama. I'm like, okay, but it's about a killer clown, right? In Gotham, right? Like that's a comic book movie. Like it's just another adaptation. You're not going to call an adaptation not an adaptation just because you think that it's silly, because even if it is, revel in that. Yeah, comics are silly. They're fun. That's why they're popular. Like, have fun with it. Be free with it. That's where things like I love the Daredevil show. I love it. I love it to pieces. Because they're able to take the gritty aspects of it and still have the humor of Matt Murdock come through. Where like someone's shot and they're like, it's not as easy as it looks in the movies, and Matt's able to respond like, I don't go to very many movies. Like that's great. Have stuff like that. Or like Ragnarok, where it's bright and colorful and silly and people can have fun and joke around because it's a comic book and it's ridiculous. Like,
yeah. I mean, Thor as a character became more interesting in the MCU when they realized, oh, he can just be a lovable himbo instead. Like, he doesn't have to be super serious. And like, look, I actually like the comic book version of Korg. I've known Korg for a while, but like Taika Waititi's version of Korg is just so fucking funny that you don't care that it's not accurate.
That's exactly what I mean with adaptations, where you got a good heart behind them, so it does not matter if it's accurate. I am a huge World War Planet Hulk fanboy. I wanted that movie so goddamn bad. And then they're like, oh, yeah, well, it's kind of like the background for a Thor movie, and now it's a comedy. And sure, that annoys me, but at the same time, I don't fucking care, because the movie's awesome. Like, it's great, and it's fun. Like, Meek's not a mass murderer who's secretly plotting in the background to destroy everything. Like, yeah, but also it's really funny when Korg steps on him and he's like, oh no, Meek's dead. I stepped on him. I've just been carrying him around because I felt so bad. Like, that's fucking hilarious. That's great.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's why I think also the Aquaman and Shazam movies were a lot of fun, because you take characters that are like, Shazam is such an inherently silly character, and putting Zachary Levi behind him is such a brilliant move. And also like all of the montage of him learning to use his powers, like that's what it would be like. He just wouldn't instantly be good at it.
No,
he'd also want to buy snacks and hang out watching TV all night, you know.
Yeah.
And like Aquaman, I mean, hiring Patrick Wilson to play Ocean Master, like if anyone can choose scenery, it's that man.
It's great. Especially, like, I love when they are able to admit that a character is gaudy and over the top and then just go with it. That's like Patrick Wilson as Ocean Master was great, because Ocean Master in the comics is always over the top. He's ridiculous. He's insane. And then them also going, oh no, we're playing Black Manta straight. That's his helmet looks like that. We're gonna go with that. That's fucking awesome. I loved seeing him roll up and all of a sudden he has the helmet and they never explain it.
No, they don't ask a question,
that's
nothing.
Great. And Ocean Master's mask moves with his eyes. Why? Because it looks cool. I don't know. Why can 17-year-old Spider-Man make this like $17,000 movie quality suit? I don't fucking know. It looks cool. Like,
yeah, I think that letting go of, like, and I, again, like some of the series movies, but I think letting go of the reality a little bit is why those things work. And also understanding, like, I love the Scott Pilgrim comics, but the movie is good also because they go, there's no way we can make the comic book into a movie. So let's just do something different, but still make it entertaining. And, like, I think that's when comic books are at their best. And, like, I love a good dramatic story in comics as well. But, like, mostly I like it when they say stupid things and when ridiculous stuff happens, because that's why you're reading a comic book. Like, I liked The Walking Dead, and I read it for a while, but I ended up falling off because it was just too much. Like, it just was too dramatic for me. And that's not everybody. And I think, like, I'm in comic books for equal parts, how is this a concept or even exist, and equal parts, oh, this is a great story, this is really serious. Like, one of the first comics I remember just plucking off a shelf more recently with no context was Chew. And Chew, so if you're not... And so I only have the first trade. I've fallen behind. But I remember seeing it and going, what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
And then flipping some pages and going, he's a chibopath? What does that even mean?
What is that? Yeah.
And, like, I just became obsessed with it. And, like, also this idea where like, chickens are outlawed and, like, food and certain foods are illegal, like drugs. It's just, like, that kind of creating something realistic, but, like, putting a ridiculous premise over the top of it, I think is just as interesting as, like, superhero comics. If you can find like a wild twist to add to the comic book that makes it seem different, I think those stand as much a chance of being a success as People in Tights.
Oh yeah, 100%. Like, one of the things that one of the books I grew up on was a comic called Gru by Sergio Aragonés, and that is a comedic take on Conan the Barbarian. Because Sergio Aragonés read Conan the Barbarian and went, oh, well, what if he was dumb? What if he was, like, really dumb? And then they made a comedy comic book off of it. And it's not realistic because there's, like, a bunch of tribes that have, like, modern day knowledge and people use modern day slang, but, like, who gives a shit? It's fun. That's... I think one of the potholes that people fall into when they start looking at comic books is they expect it to translate to reality. And no, it's an escape from reality. Comic books have always been escape from reality. That's been what they've basically existed for since their inception. Superman was originally created to be like, it was two guys being like, you know what, fuck this, and making a super being that could help them out of their what they were in. It was an inherent unreality. And I think that when people just accept the fact that it doesn't need to be real, that everything doesn't need to make sense, you can have fun with it. Does Batman make sense literally ever? No. He'd get locked up in 20 minutes. Like, as soon as Bruce Wayne comes back to Alfred and goes like, I've had an epiphany. I'm going to become a symbol. I'll be a bat. Alfred would have called 911 and been like, get this man in a padded room. Something snapped when he was out training. This is not right. The second he picked up a 13-year-old boy and said, take away his pants and throw him in front of a gun. That's, yeah, no, absolutely not. That is not going to happen. But you read it and it's like, yeah, there's been 6 Robins. What, Batman's like maybe 40? So what if Dick Grayson's like 27 already? Don't worry about it. That's the fun of it. The comics are fun because they're unrealistic, and I think that when movies and other media accepts the fact that they're unreal, that there's just an aspect of unreality to them, they get so much better. Where everything doesn't have to be explained, where some things can just be and be funny and be fun and be out there. I think that's so good.
Yeah, I agree. And I think they can be equal parts dramatic and funny. I mean, the reason Young Justice was such a success is, like, you have a story where people are learning their place in the world, trying to exist, try to be heroes, and then you have Robin asking why people are never whelmed.
Yeah.
Like, in the same story arc. And like that kind of diversity in the storytelling, I think, is what makes the most successful stuff successful.
Oh, absolutely. My favorite episode of Young Justice ever is the one immediately after the mental training sequence where it all goes wrong, where they're having therapy with Black Canary, because they're allowed to be funny. There's funny moments in that episode, where they're allowed to kind of joke around. Like Kid Flash is sitting upside down and just casually throwing popcorn into his mouth at super speed because he can see it, and he's joking around and like flirting with Black Canary. But then they're also able to immediately turn it around, and the next scene is Dick Grayson talking to her, where they're like, I don't want to be what my father figure is. I want to be someone different because I don't have what he has. There's something in me that's not as broken as him, and I can't do what he does. That's so good. You were able to, that the ability to transfer from being, forgive the pun, but comical, and then immediately go into something more dramatic is that's impressive. That's what shows that you can handle this shit properly. That's also shows like Doom Patrol do that so well, where they can transfer from something funny and ridiculous, or even still be in something funny and ridiculous, and then transfer into something dramatic. That's what shows that these icons, that these characters can be used for more than just one story or the other.
Yeah. I'm so glad you brought up Doom Patrol, because I started watching it on a whim, and it's become, I think, my favorite comic book adaptation. Because, like, well, first of all, Brendan Fraser deserves all the awards ever. Like, he's always been incredible, but he's great in that. But, like, also, especially, I haven't finished the current season, but, like, how little it gives a shit about the audience, in the sense that it's going to tell its story. And you're either in for the ride or not. Like,
you're either down for this or you're not going to be.
The first Danny the Street episode, which I found out later because I didn't know was a comic book accurate character, made me so happy. And that story is so good, and it's such a great redemption story. Like, I was like, wait, this is in the comics? I need to buy some Doom Patrol. Shit.
100%. I think that the best adaptations of comic books lead people to buying comic books. I think that adaptations are a great first step. I think that, because I'm not going to sit here and act like I have 30 comics in my pull box that I'm going to get every day. I'm not always up to date, and I'm not always reading this stuff, but I still consider myself an extreme fan of comic books. And it's because I enjoy all of the media, and it's the movies and the games and all of it that drives me to want to explore more characters. I didn't know who the Guardians were until the movies showed up.
Yeah, of course.
And then the movies arrived, and then I went and read the Guardians of the Galaxy, and now I think they're great. And that's the inherent awesomeness that comes with adaptations and stuff like that. Like Shang-Chi. I knew very, very little about Shang-Chi. I knew that, like, some of his early books were kind of racist, but that's because he was written in the 60s. So, of course, that was about all I knew. And then I watched the movie, and then I turned around and did a bunch of research on the character, and now I love him. Now I think he's great. Yeah. And I think that's the coolest part about all of these adaptations is they introduce people to things that they didn't know that they would like, and they turn them around and make them go back and enjoy them even more.
Yeah. I mean, that's been my favorite thing about other adaptations outside of even comic books. Like, so I'm watching Witcher Season 2 with my spouse, and I love the games. Yeah. And, like, I mean, my crush on Henry Cavill aside, like everybody else on the planet.
Everybody,
like,
congratulations, you have eyes.
Yeah, exactly. But, like, I watched the first season by myself because, like, it's a slow start, and my spouse was like, oh, I'm not really into it. But then I had her sitting down and actually watch it. Like, when season 2 came out, she's like, can we watch it? I want to watch it. And then she starts asking me questions. Is this in the game? What's this area? Like, asking me about the world, which I love. And, like, the thing that drives me crazy, though, is, like, a lot of folks online go, oh, well, it's based on the book, so the games don't matter. It's like, but it's all exposure to the characters.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
It's the same way that, like, yes, Star Wars has had ups and downs over the years, but, like, when they announced Book of Boba Fett, I've been a Boba Fett fan since I was 4 years old. I have a dozen action figures, and I don't care what the quality of that show is, though I happen to really like it. Yeah. I'm going to enjoy it because it's Boba Fett.
Because I'm a nerd, and I love this shit.
It's just one of those things, and, like, the extended universe is important to people, and I get why those books are important, but, like, I'm also happy to have this TV show that I can watch, and it meets me where I live, and I can enjoy. And I think the gatekeeping in the nerd community is the thing that's been most frustrating for me, and I'm sure you see it in comic books too. It's just like
100%.
Anyone can read, anyone, and, like, we need more diverse characters. No, it's not an agenda. Yes, more people should be represented, and while I'm hopeful because I've seen a lot of growth in the industry, it must be frustrating to see some of your peers, I guess, like just say head ass shit about comic books, TV, and movies because they feel entitled.
Oh yeah, it's a fellow creator on TikTok, Moose Zero, Moose_0. That's his ad. He has a really great character that he uses called the Gatekeeper Comics guy, where he basically just mocks people saying that stupid shit to gatekeep comic books like they weren't literally written for underdogs. Like that is, I think, one of the things that a lot of people forget when they read characters, because I'm going to relate it back to comic books because that's just what I know, is that stuff like comic books, Superman was written by two Jewish men in the 1930s. That is, Captain America was written and drawn by two Jewish boys in America before they had joined World War II, and the cover was him punching Hitler. Like, comics are for the underdogs. They've always been for the underdogs. They've always been for the minorities. Like, that's what it is fucking for. So when I see shit like that where people are like, well, no, that's not the character. You can't do that. Shut the fuck up. That's why do you fucking care? Let people have things that enjoy them. That one of the coolest things is being able to see. There was an interview that Anthony Mackie did where he was talking about a little boy saying that he wanted to work out because Captain America looks like him now, and that's what's fucking important. Cool. That is so fucking cool. That is awesome, because I've had that my entire. I'm a straight white dude. Of course, every superhero was written for me, so I've always related to superheroes. But then being able to see more and more people be able to relate to more and more characters is, oh my god, it's the coolest fucking thing. One of the catchphrases that I have on my channel is comics are for everyone. If you don't agree, I'm going to block you. That's just 100%. Comics are for everybody. And that is a flat out rule, because being able to see all of these adaptations and being able to see more and more people be able to get into it. I fucking hate when people go, well, that's not in the books. Who fucking cares if it's in the books? That it's not the book. It's a different version. I will say the show that broke that feeling from me, that changed me into the version where I'm able to just go, yeah, but it's a different version, so who fucking cares, is Gotham on Fox.
Yep.
Gotham is not the Batman universe at all. It is 100% different in every aspect of every territory. Everything is different. They use the names, they use some of the powers, and they use the setting, but everything is different other than that. And when I first started watching this show, that annoyed the shit out of me. The first time that a Joker character showed up and they gave him a name and a backstory, I damn near flipped my shit. I'm like, that, no, you don't get it. The Joker doesn't have a backstory. You can't do that. And then the more I watched it, the more I started realizing, yeah, but I like this anyway. Yeah, but this is still good. Yeah, but this is still enjoyable. Am I having fun? Yeah, then why do I fucking care? If it sticks to this character that's been written 30 bajillion different ways in a comic book by 50 bajillion different writers, it doesn't matter. So seeing when people do that sort of gatekeepery shit of saying, well, that's not the exact same, the version in the comic book is better, or, well, that character shouldn't really exist like that because in the comic book they're white, is like, fuck you, shut up. I would just sit back and have some fucking fun for once. I'm sure you're just great at parties.
It's the let people enjoy things, right? Like I've gotten to a point where like I've had to block people on Twitter because I would post, hey, this game's really great, you should really play it. And then they reply to tell me why it's not great. And like, I get you want to have a conversation, but this wasn't me going, hey guys, let's talk about this game. This was me promoting a thing that I believe in, that I like. Yeah. Can that just exist? Can it just be? Can we have a different
like things?
Let people not like things, but also the people who don't like things don't have to tell people why they shouldn't like the thing they like. Like that's what drives me the most bonkers.
Let people have their opinions, because especially when it's shit like this, it's make-believe characters, regardless of what you're a nerd of or about. If it's video games, if it's movies, if it's books, or if it's comics, it's make-believe. It's fairy dust. It's all fake. And getting mad because somebody doesn't like a character, unless it's for, bigotry or some shit, unless it's for obvious shit that's going to affect the real world, who fucking cares? Who fucking cares? You cannot like it. I can love it. Who fucking gives a shit? I love. I'm playing Cyberpunk 2077 right now. I fucking love that game. I know a bunch of people don't. Do I care? No, because I like it. And
Right.
they could tell me every reason that I'm wrong for not liking for enjoying it, but I don't care because I like it. That's the way I think that people should enjoy this sort of media, is just by looking at it and going, do I enjoy it? Yes. Do I not enjoy this? Yes. Okay, that's my opinion of something. And you can have a different opinion on it as long as it's not for like inherently negative reasons in the real world for liking or not liking something. Then yeah, who fucking just enjoy things. Just
Yeah, I mean, well, and Cyberpunk's a great example, right? Because there was a ton of shit going down on the studio and like the trans representation in the game. And like, if you don't want to play the game for that reason, that's absolutely valid. But like, for you to go into someone's mentions because they're playing and going, oh, well, you're a bad person because you played this game. Well, not. There's no ethical consumption under capitalism. We are all buying things made by
100%.
people. And so like, you have to pick and choose your battles. Like, I didn't buy Red Dead Redemption 2 because I didn't like how Rockstar was treating their employees. That was my choice. But I had a friend who loves that game. I have a friend who is in that game. He was a voice of a minor character in that game. I'm not going to like tell them to fuck off because they were able to do awesome stuff. Like, you have to pick your battles. And especially I feel in the nerd sphere, and you must see this on TikTok. You must see this when you're creating stuff. You can't fight every battle. You have to do your best, be true to yourself, be true to the message, and like, but you can't fight every small battle because it would probably just exhaust you.
Yeah. I think something as a content creator, and I'm sure you'd be able to relate to this as well. As a content creator, it is the responsibility of the creator to promote positive things. If you have a platform, you should promote positivity with it. That is my thought process. Support good things. Even if that's saying negative things about bad people, that's supporting positivity. And the way that I decide to handle it myself is I'm going to make it extremely obvious about what I support. I'm not going to make a video where I'm just like, hey, everybody, here is the X charities that I support, and here's the social causes I back and everything. But I'm going to make it obvious in my skits and make it obvious in my videos and stuff what my opinion is, because that's my opinion. And it's also trying to support what I think is a positive change in the world and that sort of thing. And I find that incredibly useful because that's also how my fan base that I have has gotten to where it is where I'm like, no, everybody should be here. If you don't think that everybody should be here, then why? Unless it's for something extremely obvious like bigotry or homophobia or sexism or anything like that. Like, and unless it's for you're being negative, I think that everybody should be allowed in everything. And I make that extremely clear in what I do. Hell, I made a Spider-Man video where I made a joke about millionaires, where I was like, where I made a joke where it was like, oh, how did the world end? It's like, well, it's actually a really complicated string of events that involved a lot of superheroes. It was capitalism, wasn't it? Yeah, it was capitalism. It was, I make it obvious who I am. And if you don't agree, that's fine. But if you do, great. Cool. Everyone's allowed here anyway, unless you're going to come into my comments and be like, actually, everyone who says that is blah, 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 blah. Shut up. I don't care. Just because we're all connected on the internet doesn't mean that everybody has to always share everything all of the time.
Correct. I mean, I think that's part of the problem of always being online is like, and I'm guilty of this. I spend probably way too much time on Twitter, but everyone needs to know how horny I am for Venom. I've just decided that's just, that's part of my brand. But but I think it's important to like, when you're being honest, you also have to remind people I'm a person. Like, I'm glad you like my stuff, but I'm also a person with human feelings.
There's a human being on the other side of the screen. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm curious with TikTok specifically, especially since you are now, as I look at it, 841,000 followers.
Yes.
Making your way to 1 million. Did you ever expect by doing stupid comic book sketches that you would have a following on the internet? Like, I mean, because I have a TikTok page. I have 400 followers. Go me. I make stupid things too, like everybody else. But like, Do you even have a track, like a line of point A to point B, or is it just like shrug? I don't know. Here I am.
So I know the videos that made me popular, but I never thought that I would get popular. I actually, funny story. Me and my roommate, when I first started making videos, the first video that really propelled me into the spotlight was I made a Batman, the first guy to get taken down by Robin. That was my first big video that put me from like, I think I made a video a week before making that one that was joking about the fact that I had less than 3,000 followers, and then after that video I had 10,000 in like a night. But me and my roommates, again going back to Moose Zero, the guy I was talking about before, he was the first like really big comic book TikToker that we had seen, and he had made a lot of those Gatekeeper comic videos that were kind of joking about it. And we repeatedly told each other, we're like, how big do you think this is going to get? Wouldn't it be funny if I started making money off of this? Wouldn't that be crazy? He's like, yeah, that's never going to happen though. And it's like, yeah, how big do you think I'm going to get though? And he's like, I think that maybe you'll probably max out at around that guy, which at the time was 50,000. And I was like, oh, that'd be insane. Could you imagine if I got 50,000 people? And that was like my max. That was where I thought that I was going to cap. My first joke that I was making to myself was, wouldn't it be funny if I started making money off of it? And then it's like, well, wouldn't it be funny if I could pay for a PS5 off of it? And then the goal just kept rising until it's like, what if I could pay for a semester of housing in my fucking school for it? Like, it just keeps given I never actually put the money towards that. All of it goes into savings because broke college student. But
right, of course. Hell yeah.
There I can't really track a line. I have no idea why people keep following me, because I only think that me and my roommate joke about the fact where it's just like, I mean, I chuckle sometimes, but that's about the extent of it. I never suspected to get any more than 50,000 followers, and then the second that I surpassed 50,000, and then the second that I surpassed the follower count of the guy who I thought was way better than me, was the second that I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Why do you people keep following me? This is...
Oh, you mean you also suffer from imposter syndrome? I can't imagine why.
I'm a video game artist. I live on imposter syndrome. It's what sustains me when I don't eat for 3 days.
Well, something else I've wanted to ask actually is, what's something that people would be surprised to know about you? Like, I was surprised when you did your first video about being a video game artist, a 3D artist, because I mean, I'd seen videos forever of you and you keep mentioning school, and I'm like, what the fuck is he in school for? I don't even know. And then you showed the video. So like, are there other surprising facts about you that maybe your followers might not know?
One that everybody always seems to be surprised at when I mention it is my age. Because everybody always seems to think that I'm in like my mid-20s, early 30s or something. I'm barely 21. Barely. I'm very young. Wow. Yeah, that's probably the first thing that people... I always get 1,000 comments of people being like, what the fuck did you just say to me? Like, how old did you say you are? Like...
Look, I'm not going to say I'm old enough to probably be a young parent for you, but let's just say I'm old enough. We'll leave it at that.
People always are surprised by that part. I mean... Yeah, there's also being the video game artist thing, or like perspective. Please, if there's any video game companies that need a lighting artist, I'm graduating in April. Like, when I say that I do stuff like that, people get really confused. Or like when I mention my 3 bajillion hobbies, because people are always confused when I say that I have like 3,000 hobbies. Because there's stuff where it's like, oh yeah, when I was in middle school, I was a wrestler, and I did that for a little while, and I've been in a couple of plays because I loved acting, and oh yeah, I also do bow shooting on the side, and I've done wood carving before and wood burning. I also know how to do tattoo art. I fully designed the tattoo on my forearm and everything.
Amazing.
So there's like, it's probably my hobbies, my age, and what I want to do for a living, where it's like, oh yeah, I go to a really exclusive video game school where I can learn how to make video games and hopefully get a job someday. Yeah, so I don't really know what else would be surprised, because that's just me. That's to me, that's just, this shit that I do. I don't think I look old for my age. I don't think that I sound old for my age. I don't think any of that stuff. But the second that I mention it, everyone just loses their fucking mind. Or I'm like, oh yeah, I guess I also do art on the side, as you know, my career, and people lose their minds at that as well. So I've kind of lost the ability to tell what's shocking. Just
that's fair. I mean, well, I think also when you exist in a certain lane, right? Like I've been podcasting for a long time, but then when folks find out, oh, you have a Twitch channel? I didn't know you streamed. I was like, yeah. I do other things. Like, you know, it's very easy to be put in a lane, especially when you're known for being
the comic book guy.
The comic book guy. I'm curious about the origin of your username. Is it an old nickname? Is it like I always love that because like Stormageddon for me comes from Doctor Who. I used to host and DJ burlesque shows, and someone said, "Oh, your last name's Storm," which is my actual last name. Well, now I'm calling you Stormageddon, and then it's stuck. So like I'm curious where the Panda Redd came from.
Okay, so it kind of like stumbled down the stairs into being the Panda Redd. So when completely unrelated to the Panda Redd, the first username I ever went by was Comic-Con J, because my real name is Jay Morton. So Comic-Con J was kind of the I'm a big comic book fan, my name's Jay, then we're gonna go with that. But I read a comic book called Deadpool versus Deadpool, and I changed it to Pandapool 98 because New Mutants 98 is where Deadpool first showed up. There's a character in Deadpool versus Deadpool called Pandapool, and Pandapool showed up for one issue, was regarded as like the coolest motherfucker alive, and then died 2 pages later. Think like the guy in Spy Kids 3, where he shows up and he's like, I am the guy, and everyone loses their minds, and then he gets fucking eviscerated like 5 seconds after that. I think Pandapool shows up and they give him like, he has like a full page spread where he's like screaming and is like, he's the species that makes you extinct. Like they gave him like this cool intro and everything. And then 2 pages later, he's got like a cannonball sized hole in his chest and Deadpool's like screaming, no, over his body. And I thought that was fucking hilarious. So I made my name Pandapool. Well, I started going to school. And I started to get my name out there a little bit as being an artist, where I wanted to, you know, start showing off my my online persona and everything. And I was like, okay, maybe using a copyrighted name isn't the best idea.
Not a great idea, yeah.
Yeah, maybe you know, Disney's not exactly known for letting copyright stuff slide. So I'm gonna, maybe I should switch that up. At this point, pandas had become kind of just my favorite animal at this point. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to keep the panda part of that because that's in the name. My favorite color is red, but just saying red panda's already an animal and it's not the animal I'm talking about. So I'm going to add an extra D to the end of red just because why not? And then I'm going to make it Panda Redd instead of Red Panda, because if it's Red Panda, again, people are going to think I'm the other one. And so now it just goes to Panda Redd is the name. And I just added the "the" to the beginning of it because I wanted it to sound official when I started putting it on stuff. Kind of like when it's like official Henry Cavill or something. I was like, no. I want it to be the Panda Redd. Especially because a couple of years before that, me and my family had a comic shop that we just called The Comic Shop. So I'm like, no, if you add a "the" to the beginning of it, it makes you sound important and official. So I'm gonna be the Panda Redd. And now it's funny because then people say the whole thing, and I'm like, no, the name is Panda Redd. Just it's Panda Redd, and then the is just there to, you know, say that I'm the it's me.
You're the one, the Panda Redd. Amazing, I love that. I've been asking this question a lot because we are still in a global pandemic. Wear a mask, get vaccinated, please.
Please, God, please. Heroes get vaccinated.
But I've started asking this question because the pandemic's been hard for everybody for a whole host of reasons. And I've always wanted to know from folks where the silver linings are, right? We always try and find the good and the bad. We always try to do our best. So over the course of this now over 2-year-long pandemic that continues to never end, is
get
there
vaccinated,
something,
please?
please, for the love of God, is there something like a standout moment during this time when we've had to shelter indoors and when we've had to kind of hunker down, something good that's come out of it or something good that's happened because you were home more or because you were focusing on yourself more or because you just weren't going the fuck outside?
So me personally, I would not have a following if it wasn't for the pandemic. I wouldn't exist. if it wasn't for the pandemic. Not only because I don't think anybody would have given a shit. I don't think anybody would have watched my videos if they weren't literally stuck inside and had to. But also because I wouldn't have even started making the content that I did if it wasn't. Because the reason I started making the content that I did is because I was in the hardest semester I had ever had. I was overloaded with classes. I was overloaded with work. I was stressed. I could barely sleep. I could barely think. And I was stuck around the same 4 people the entire time because I was in student housing. So I had to be around the same people, never leave, stay inside, keep working. So I started making videos to make myself laugh because I wanted to make jokes to, pick myself up a little bit. And that's where my comedy skits came from, is because I just wanted to I saw people making little jokes online and I'm like, I could probably, funnel some of that acting time that I spent for the last, how many odd years, and actually, do a couple of these. It'd be pretty fun. And that's where all of this shit started. So honestly, yeah, the pandemic is horrible and it's lasted for forever, but honestly, I will always have a tie to it because this wouldn't exist without it. I wouldn't exist without it. I would still just be some fucking no one from Washington who wants to be a game artist someday.
But that's really great. And I mean, I agree. Like, I started developing a following on Twitch because I was home all the time, because I could play more games, because I had more time to play games. And I think that it's a healthy and not always easy attitude to have, like, well, okay, I have this time. What the hell do I do with it? How do I do something new? How do I make a difference? How do I make a change? And like, I have to say, as someone who has gone through hell and back during the pandemic, I lost my home in a fire. I have, lost, changed jobs, all this other stuff. Like, I'm being over dramatic. The apartment got ruined. I'll get to go back. We own it. It's been almost a year and a half. And
shit. Go back eventually.
Right. Like, being displaced from your home sucks. It's not a thing I would put on anyone's to-do list.
No.
But like, I have to say, as a fan of your work, that your videos have gotten me through some really hard times. Your comedy, your honesty, and like, I will also say the fact that you're almost half my age is like, well, fuck, what the hell am I doing with my life? But like, I really do appreciate what you do and know that.
Thank you.
And I know like so many folks do. I think that good comedy is so hard to come by, especially because it's always so easy to punch down at people, and you don't. You punch up. You punch up at comic book characters. You punch up at other people. You punch up like you don't just punch down and take the low hanging fruit. And I appreciate that from someone who likes to laugh. So thank you for all of that. Before we wrap up, I would love to know what the future of Panda Redd looks like. Do you have any big ideas, things you've never been able to do that you want to do, characters that you've always wanted to play that you haven't played yet, things like that?
I will use any excuse that I can to. I am trying to get enough fans on my side to get someone in a position of power to get me an audition to play Jason Todd, because I desperately want to play the character in some capacity. I know in June I'm going to be going to NocoCon in New York. And honestly, if more people could, invite me out to Comic-Cons, that'd be great. If you pay for my plane ticket in a hotel, I'm absolutely down for all of that. I love doing that stuff. And honestly, I like doing what I do. So it's a lot of, I see where the wind takes me. I do what fans want me to do most of the time, because a lot of the stuff that I do is usually just because I've had someone ask me for it. Like, I didn't have a Discord and somebody asked, hey, is there like a Discord channel that all of your fans can get on? I'm like, oh shit. There is now. And made that where like someone's like, oh, hey, I want to be able to support you, but I don't want to buy another thing of merch because I don't need 30,000 t-shirts. And I'm like, okay, I guess I'll make a Patreon and make stuff like that. So really it's just wherever the wind takes me, wherever the fans like my content, whatever they like me doing, I'll continue to do, just because I enjoy doing this. So as long as I can keep it moving, I definitely just want to keep going the way I can, unless I get cast as Jason Todd, and then it's just going to be promoting the fact that I'm playing Jason Todd.
Look, you have a goal, and that's good. I'm glad. Yeah. Like, it's important. You should focus on that. No, that's
that goal
that's
on the
great.
horizon I'm never going to reach, where I'm just like, someday You know,
Look, you said you were never going to reach 50,000 followers, and you are well past that.
very fair. It's a very good point.
Well, Jay, thank you so much for taking your time to chat with me. I meant everything I said. I really do enjoy your stuff, and I really do hope the best for you, especially once you're out of college, because as that something in my far distant past that was a stress that I will never, ever want to experience again. So, but I wish you nothing but luck. I have one other thing I would love for you to do.
Yes.
Is two things, actually. One, for the two people who might not know who the hell you are, please tell folks where they can find you online and find your work online.
Absolutely. So I'm mostly on TikTok at the Panda Redd, ThePandaRedd. And then you use that exact same username everywhere else. I'm on YouTube, I'm on Twitch, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Instagram. I think that's it. I don't think I'm on any other social medias yet. I'm pretty sure. Twitch, I'm on Twitch under the Panda Redd. Might have said that already, but basically no one else uses that username because who the fuck else would think of it? So if you can think of a social media profile, ThePandaRedd, and you'll find me there. Mostly on TikTok and YouTube though.
Awesome. Go check out all of his stuff. It's hilarious. It's fun. Good-hearted. I didn't even get to talk about Regrettable Superhero of the Week, which is like some of the nonsense you've pulled out of that fucking book.
How was this published?
How is this real? They made this? I mean, some of the more questionable ones, like I'm not that surprised that some white guy thought of something, racially insensitive, but
Oh yeah, totally. That's, that just happens. It was the 30s and comics needed to be sold. So let's, crank some shit out. Then you get characters like the Mad Hatter, where it's like, let's put a guy in a furry diaper and throw him against a gorilla in a human mask. It'll work out great.
With no hat, even though he's called the Mad Hatter.
Yeah, the Mad Hatter. Dude in a spandex outfit with no fucking hat, even though his hat is his logo and his name and everything about him.
Comics are weird. I mean, that's the punchline, really, is the comics are just weird. The other thing I'll have you do is we have a saying on the show. It's born out of my now on indefinite hiatus music show. The phrase is, music is life and life is good. It's this idea that as long as you're creating, as long as you're making stuff, no matter how hard life gets, you can find joy in making things. So we will wrap up the show if you could just say that phrase, music is life and life is good.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me on. Thank you for listening. Music is life and life is good.
That's it for this episode of CPOV Autographs. Our theme music is by Michael Kill. Our logo was designed by Case Aiken and Joey Amons. If you liked the show, please rate and review wherever you get your podcasts. It's a great way to help us reach more listeners. Questions, comments, or guest recommendations? Email mr.nat.storm@gmail.com or hit us up on Twitter at CPOV Autographs. Thank you so much for listening.
Hey.
Oh, hey, Jeff.
What's going on, guys?
Oh, talking about Superman.
Oh, cool. I could talk about Superman.
I could talk some more about Superman.
We know.
I'll bet a few people would want to get in on this.
I'm down.
You know it.
That sounds like fun. I'll do it.
Cool, let's do it. We can call the show Men of Steel.
And you can find it at certainpov.com.
Or wherever you get your podcasts.
Yay.
CPOV.
certainpov.com.